Well, hey, beautiful. Welcome to Dr. Sarah's Café. This is a tarot reading to help you navigate roadblocks, delays, detours, or liminal spaces. If you feel like you're currently in a state of pause or stasis, especially one that is outside of your control, one that was unplanned or unexpected, one that you did not initiate yourself, then this tarot reading is meant to give you some guidance, insights about how to make the best use of this time, how to navigate this space, and maybe what's on the other side of this delay, detour, or roadblock, okay? Now, the reason why I'm doing this is for two reasons. One, I've recently done a 3-video series on pivots and transitions and transformation. If you haven't seen that yet, I will link to them below or put a link up here on the screen. And so I was thinking about what's the 4th video I want to do for August. And so I asked tarot, what should my 4th video be about? And we got the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man from the Gold Liar Tarot specifically. And I'll talk about the Hanged Man as a theme that I'm being guided to discuss and talk about and pull cards for. When I was in Costa Rica, I was on my way to the grocery store. And one of the ways that I practice and learn and study tarot is to pull cards for everyday mundane tasks in my life. So I pulled a card to see what my grocery trip would be like, what my trip to the grocery store and back was going to entail, things I might encounter, people I might run across. And one of the cards was the Hanged Man. And so I couldn't fathom what that would be or what that would mean. But as it turns out, on my way back from the grocery store, the electricity in the hotel I was staying in was out. The electricity was out. And so that meant the elevators were not working. And now I was staying on the 18th floor with multiple bags of groceries. And so I had to make the decision, do I try to climb 18 flights of stairs with all these groceries in my hand, or do I sit in the lobby and wait until the electricity is back on? So I chose to sit in the lobby and wait. And so it immediately made sense to me, that's what the Hanged Man represented for me in terms of my grocery trip. It meant that I would be delayed, that I would have especially an unexpected delay. And so when I started this video, I mentioned that it's not just a period of waiting. It's usually a period of waiting that you didn't expect to have to endure or that you didn't plan for. And so it could be a roadblock or some kind of hang up or stalling or delay that is outside of your control and that was not part of the original plan. And that's coming through really strongly. Some type of delay or roadblock or liminal waiting, holding pattern was not part of the original plan. And so another example or metaphor is that if you're traveling, if you're flying, taking a flight, the planned layover, so when you book your flight, it says, oh, there'll be a 2-hour layover in Denver or a 2-hour layover in Paris, right? This would be outside of the planned, expected layover. This is where the flight is being delayed past or beyond its originally scheduled time, right? And so the flight is late, the pilot is, getting sick or something like that. Not that any of you are actually traveling. I'm just using this as a metaphor or an analogy, right? And so it's not just a planned waiting period. It's not the usual wait time that you expect for certain things. It's usually a delay or hurdle or obstacle or pause that is outside of the original plan or beyond what you expected or intended, okay? And oftentimes you have no control over it. So in many cases, like with the grocery trip, it's not like I could do anything to speed up the process. I had to wait because there was just no electricity. You can't get on an elevator without electricity, right? So if any of that resonates, if any of that is making sense to you, then you are in a period of the Hanged Man energy. Now, when this card came out, specifically what stood out to me for the first time, I've seen this card in many instances using this deck. But for the first time, it looked like a clock. It looks like the hands of a clock, the way her legs are splayed in that way, and even the direction of her head. It looks like the minute hand, the hour hand, and maybe even the second hand, depending on what clock you're using. And so it's really emphasizing for me the notion of time, the notion of time, the notion of perhaps a divine delay, perhaps a divine detour, and the need to reimagine or even reconsider our sense of time, our notion of time. Okay, I'm gonna take another sip while my coffee is still warm. And so maybe we are in a rush. Maybe we are being impatient and feel like we're running out of time. For some of us, we might be watching the clock really closely and maybe feeling frustrated or flustered by the amount of time we feel is being lost or wasted in this delay or in this liminal space where we're uncertain of how much longer we have to wait. It might be unclear how much longer you have to wait, and that makes the waiting that much more difficult, that much more frustrating. So with the elevator electricity situation, it was unclear how much time it would take to get the electricity back on, but we knew they were actively working on it, right? We knew that people were already there, already on site, had already been trying to get the power back up before I got there, right? And so my expectation was that, okay, it's an unexpected, unplanned delay, but at least they're actively working on it. For some of you with this Hanged Man energy, though, you might not have that additional comfort. You might not have that additional peace of mind of knowing that someone is actively working to try and remove this roadblock or remove this hurdle or this delay or this obstacle, okay? Now, I also want to pull an oracle card before I get into the full tarot reading, and I'm going to use the Oracle of the Seven Energies deck. Message for the collective regarding roadblocks, delays, detours, or liminal spaces. Tell us about this Hanged Man energy for those who are watching. Okay, we have let it go. Let it go. Let it go. And that is the energy of 24 working down to a 6. Immediately what sticks out to me, I'm going to read from the guidebook, but immediately what's sticking out to me, one is the idea of letting it go, right? And so are we actually responsible for the hang up? Are we actually responsible for the lack of progress by our unwillingness to release something, our unwillingness to let something go? And so perhaps we are blocking or creating a roadblock by trying to hold on to something from the past, or trying to hold on to some thought pattern or some way of thinking, or trying to hold on to some relationship or perception or ego gratification, right? What also stands out to me before I read the full description is the shape of the heart. And it feels like there's an emotional healing that is necessary, an emotional release. And particularly there are two birds here tying a knot together. I don't know if you can see that. Two birds tying a bow around the heart. And so what is, I think of heartstrings, something pulling at your heartstrings, but is it actually in your highest interest? Is it actually in your best interest? You might have an emotional attachment to something that makes you feel nostalgic, perhaps, or makes you feel comforting. Maybe it's a comfort food, or like the equivalent of a comfort food, like a relationship or a way of acting and behaving that just is your comfort zone, but it might not necessarily be really healthy for you. And I'm also getting that neither of these birds can fly away if they're trying to hold on to this thread. If they're trying to hold on to this thread, if they're trying to hold on to the other end of the rope, they are essentially stuck together. They are essentially unable to move or fly forward or fly higher or fly away. And so one of them has to be willing to let go in order for anything to change. Okay, I'm going to pull up the meaning of this. 24, let it go. Key concepts: forgiveness. Sorry, this is not a laughing matter. But the way that very first word resonates so deeply with the meaning of this hanged man, and the delay, the detour, the stumbling block, the roadblock, the obstacle, the barrier, the liminal space, and the emotional clutter and baggage. It has to do with forgiving something. Healing resentments. Yeah, so a lot of our progress, the delay is being caused by our attachment to a painful, difficult, harmful betrayal or loss or regret from the past. Shedding the role of the eternal martyr. The hanged man, you can't make this stuff up, okay? The hanged man is the card of the martyr. It is Piscean energy, and it, when it's unhealed, it has a tendency towards martyrdom, being overly self-sacrificial, okay? So it's interesting that is the oracle card that comes out to clarify and explain this hanged man energy. Cutting the ties that bind you to a destructive story. So it's not even being attached to like a toxic relationship per se. It's being attached to a toxic story, a narrative that is holding us back, a story that we tell ourselves, a programming, a conditioning that we have that is impeding our progress and our growth forward. Releasing pain so you can move into the lesson it offers, and relinquishing the need to be right. Okay. And I feel like the keywords, the key concepts are sufficient. I'm not going to go in and read the full description. Okay, let's start pulling some additional tarot cards. Do I want to pull from the same deck? Actually, I'm feeling like I don't want the same deck. Do I want this deck or do I want the Wild Unknown? I'm going to do the Wild Unknown. Okay. Additional messages for the hanged man energy, for let it go, and for the collective who might be navigating roadblocks, delays, detours, liminal spaces, moments of stasis or pause, especially those that are unplanned, unexpected, and even undesired. Please elaborate on this message of the hanged man to me. Whoa, okay. There was a burst from the coffee pot, and then the cards just kind of fell out. But one card, the Two of Pentacles, fell face up. Interesting. The Two of Pentacles is a card of, how do I want to describe it? It's like pacing. So pacing back and forth. It is spinning your wheels. It is juggling. It is trying to bring two different things into balance, into harmony. It is a need to reprioritize, a need to organize and arrange your priorities, even your assets or resources. But really the pacing back and forth to me is that liminal space, that undecided holding pattern. And then the spinning of the wheels, spinning your wheels. You're doing a lot of work, but you're not necessarily making any progress. That's what this Two of Pentacles is coming out as, is that there's a lot of movement, a lot of activity, but there's not a lot of progress. It's not a lot of forward movement, right? So it's like hamster wheel energy. And if this is financial for some of you, it's not being able to get ahead in your finances. So you have money coming in, but just as fast as it comes in, it goes out again. Or if it's not money, it's something similar to that. It's like you get time off, and then that time off is filled with other tasks and responsibilities. So you never really are able to catch up on your rest or your sleep, right? So it's that kind of energy there. What's interesting for me is the Wheel of Fortune at the bottom of the deck. One other significant instance where the Hanged Man energy really spoke to me in a reading, like really, really like clear as day, this is what it is there had been a delay. There had been a roadblock. There had been a halt to a plan. Had a plan. The plan had stopped because of finances, actually. Because of financial constraints, the plan had halted. We were at a gridlock. And that morning I pulled the Hanged Man and the Wheel of Fortune. And all of a sudden, the funding came through and we were able to move forward. So this bodes well in terms of those of you who are in, it doesn't have to be financial. It could be any hurdle or any roadblock that's in your way. But it bodes well to have the Wheel of Fortune hanging around because it suggests that there is something opening up, right? That there's like an unlock or a key that allows the situation to advance and move forward. I'm going to get a couple more here. Anything else you can tell us with this Hanged Man energy, with the Let It Go energy, and this overall message of navigating? Yeah, for sure. Let me get one more. Okay, two more. Look what's at the bottom of the deck. The Hanged Man. The Hanged Man. I love it. Now the two cards that fell. Okay. All right, so the other card that fell out was the Three of Swords. So that's the letting go of past hurts, forgiveness. For some of you, and I know on social media there's debate about the role of forgiveness, but based on this message, your unwillingness to forgive is holding you back. So regardless of your philosophy or theory or framework about forgiveness, the message is, hey, forgiveness would help you move forward. Forgiveness would help you letting it go, releasing the situation, even if it's just yourself that you have to forgive. Forgiving yourself, forgiving society, forgiving a particular person, that is going to help you move forward in a situation or in your life overall. And it's also a card of healing. It's interesting because this Let It Go card has the heart, and the Three of Swords traditionally is traditionally depicted as three swords piercing a heart. Okay, and so there's something binding your heart. There's something holding your heart, stifling your heart even, that you have to heal, that you have to forgive so that you can let it go and free yourself from it. Close to that is the Five of Cups, which is a very similar message. The Five of Cups is regret, is that sense of loss, of sadness, of wishing things had turned out differently. You can spend your time, you can spin your wheels wishing things had turned out differently, wishing your life had turned out differently, wishing the situation, the relationship, the job, the career, just spending all this time wishing things had turned out differently. And right in this moment, I'm getting the connection between this tarot reading and the series I just did on pivoting, on change, on transition. Pivoting from one career to another, changing or transitioning from one relationship into being single or from being single into a relationship. The transition, right? So stepping off of one path and stepping onto a new path. It requires letting go of the pain, sadness, regret, and disappointment that the original path did not work out. Okay? So in order for you to fully embrace and thrive in your new career, you have to release the sorrow, regret, and disappointment that the previous career did not work out the way you wanted it to. In order to step into a new relationship status and be happy and thrive in that new relationship status, you have to release the pain, heartache, disappointment that the previous situation did not turn out as planned. It did not go the way you originally imagined it to go. And once you release that, once you grieve that and let it go, then you can fully pivot and step onto the next path, begin the next chapter. And that's what we have here with the Ace of Wands. To fully embrace this brand new, bright, vibrant beginning, full of vitality and passion, you have to go ahead and mourn and grieve the things in your life that did not work out, so that you can release them and let them go and not have them be baggage or be a ball and chain that's weighing you down and holding you back. Look at this, bottom of the deck. Not only do we have the Hanged Man, but we also have the Lovers, which is about choice. And we have the Ace of Pentacles, which is about a brand new, brilliant beginning. And beneath that, we have the Wheel of Fortune again. Change is coming, but it requires us to make the decision. This is telling us that we can unlock forward momentum through choices and decisions we make. And one of those choices is to go ahead and grieve what didn't work out, grieve the original plan, grieve the plan A, grieve the original path, the previous relationship, the previous career, and release it. Because there's so much beauty up ahead. Look at just the color alone in these cards, right? I feel like that's the message, folks. We did have the Fool make an appearance. It kind of slipped out from the bottom of the deck, which is more of a new beginning, taking that initial leap of faith. So with the Fool and the Wheel of Fortune, it's the escape hatch, right? That first step out of this delay, the first step over the roadblock, the first step out of this liminal space and into a more aligned path is right there. It's like you're right there. You're about to cross that threshold. If your flight has been delayed, it's time to start boarding, right? But you have to let go of, release some baggage, right? Like your carry-on is too heavy and that's causing the delay. You seriously, like if you think about the analogy, a lot of times flights are delayed because people's carry-ons are too big. And so like, oh, they have to check their carry-on. It won't fit into the overhead bin. And so I hope I'm not offending anyone by giggling, but it's like, what baggage do you need to let go of so that it fits into the overhead bin so that you can finish boarding the flight and get on with the next leg of your journey? I think it's a beautiful message, my dears. And I hope that this message has helped you in some way to refill your spiritual cup. And I hope to see you in another video. Take care.